Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Green Jeans. Anneke and I are here together in wonderful Santa Fe, New Mexico. And I'm Maya Van Rossum.
I'm Anneke Van Rossum.
And we are a mother-daughter Green Jeans team doing this week's episode of our podcast. But before we talk about why we're here in New Mexico, we have to start with this week's fact check. Anneke, what's this week's fact check?
So while probably most people talk about the US as being this really great, green, lush area, so many forests, so wonderful. We don't have deforestation. You'll probably hear from people. Actually, according to ecofriendlyhabits.com, only less than 4% of American forests remain today.
So while people like to point the finger at other nations where, yes, there are devastating impacts on forests, particularly on the rainforest, we also have to remember that right here in the US, we too have a lot to do when it comes to forest protection and reforestation for all of the beautiful benefits that forests provide to us, including in addressing the climate crisis. Great fact check.
Yeah, I think if no one's heard this saying, there's ones like the American chestnut, which I think is almost extinct now. But a squirrel could cross from like Pennsylvania to California only on branches of American chestnut trees. And that's obviously not the case anymore. So that's your fact check. So maybe go plant a tree in your yard if you can.
Right now, today. Okay, so like I said, Anneke and I are in the same place, in the same space here in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So Anneke, why are we here?
So we are here because I decided that for my second to last semester of law school, I had a great opportunity to work for a semester. And the New Mexico Green Amendment is about to be proposed in a 30-day session in January. So I'm your boots on the ground Green Amendment person. To try and amp up grassroots support, legislative support, so that when I have to go back, hopefully the Green Amendment can flow and go for a vote in 2022.
So that is super exciting, and it's really super helpful. And just a reminder to people who may be new to our Green Jeans podcast, a Green Amendment is an amendment that gets added to the Bill of Rights section of our state and federal constitutions and recognizes and protects the rights of all people, regardless of race, ethnicity, socioeconomics, all people to a clean and healthy environment, clean water, clean air, stable climate, and healthy environments, and gives those environmental rights the highest constitutional protection that's given to other fundamental rights, like the right to free speech, freedom of religion. So this is really powerful. There are only a few states that have a constitutional Green Amendment, and we are hoping that New Mexico is going to be at the forefront of our growing Green Amendment movement, where we already have 13 states where Green Amendment proposals are
14.
advancing.
Arizona's the new one.
Oh, super exciting, super exciting. So Anneke, I too had the joy of going through law school. Now, when I went to law school because I really believed in environmental protection. I enjoyed studying the law just on its face. I remember I took a contracts law course in college, and I enjoyed studying the law. And I wanted to marry my interest in the law with my interest in the environment. And so I went to law school to do that. But I also did not go to law school because I wanted to be a lawyer. I went to law school because I wanted to be a better environmental advocate. And that's in fact the path that I have followed. And it has brought me great joy throughout my life. It was really the best decision and the best path for me. I am licensed, and I took the bar and did all that good stuff.
You're licensed in like multiple states.
I am in 3 states, but I get to be the client.
Humble brag.
I get to be the client. Like I always say, right? My lawyers can only say what I tell them they can say, but I can say whatever it is I want to. So that's great fun. But I'm wondering for you, right? You're on your own path. This is your own environmental protection and legal journey. So you're now 2.5 years in. And what are you thinking? You also are committed to the environment, and you also studying Indigenous rights in law school. So where are you at in your legal environmental journey?
Well, I think it's the contracts thing actually makes me laugh because when my first year of law school and everyone was like, what's your favorite class? And I was like, contracts. I actually really liked contract law. I think my professor was awesome. Shout out to Joe Brennan. You're the greatest. But I don't know, it was like cool. And I think so when I went to Ithaca College for undergrad and I did politics as my major because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was like, well, I'm interested in the environment. That seems to be the route I want to go, but not totally sure. And so the whole time, if you're a politics major, literally everybody says like, oh, so you want to be a lawyer. And I think pretty much the whole first 3 years of college, I was like, no, I'm not going to law school. Like who, what? No, 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 no. And then I came back from, I think my senior year was approaching and I sat down with you and I was like, what do I do? Like, I think I want to do environmental activism and I don't know if law school is in the cards. So you and I talked about it and I was nervous and you were like, well, I think it would be good based on your experiences. So I did. So I applied and I'm now at Vermont Law School. Go Swans. But yeah, it's been interesting. And I think I had the same. So for anyone too, if you're in law school, it's okay to hate it to start. It is. It's intimidating. Like I think I called you the first month crying. Like, I'm not going to do this. I want to leave. And you were so great. And we're like, just give it the year. Like, try it, see what happens. And if you don't like it at the end of the year, you don't have to keep going. And so to everyone who is in law school, I loved it. I think after the first like 2 months and when I really like dug in and I went to my office hours and I got to talk with my professors and I found my learning style, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And it really was like, oh, this is one big puzzle I get to put together. But then I think it kind of dawned on me. So then I had to do most of law school in COVID, which stunk. But I think it kind of dawned on me that like, yeah, I don't want to be an attorney. Like I like to write, I like to do public speaking, I like learning the law, but I don't want to write briefs. I don't want to write petitions. I don't want to have to kind of make the way lawyers have to make arguments. And so I think now being here in New Mexico and actually getting to do some boots on the ground work and talking with legislators and different activists and like community members, it's definitely, I think, solidified for me that being an attorney is not what I'm gonna do likely. So it's been cool. I mean, I don't know. What was it? Did you do experiential stuff in law school?
Yeah. So when I was in law school, I was in the environmental litigation clinic. I actually went to PACE, University School of Law, which I think now is called the Elizabeth Howe School of Law. And really fantastic experience. So many wonderful experiences there. And then I got an LLM, a Master's of Law. So that's the next law degree at Widener University School of Law. I had the opportunity to actually get that degree to be the staff attorney at the environmental litigation clinic there. But to do that 2-year position, I had to get an LLM. So I got an LLM for free. So you don't pass up free education. And in my experience, and I think everybody should get free education. And it's a shame that that's going by the wayside at the federal level. But so I did have that. And it was great. It was great experience, but it was different than yours. It was different. It was doing the litigation clinic it was like one of my classes. So I would go. But I do, 2 things that you said. One thing, I remember all those years ago, even though I'm the youngest person in the room, I remember those early months and really crying my eyes out. And one day when I was crying so hard, because it was hard, because it's an entirely different way of learning. You're basically learning to learn, and you're sort of reshaping, restructuring how your brain operates to analyze information and make arguments and present arguments and convince people. And I was having a really hard time too in those early months. And I just remember there literally being a moment where I had a conversation with myself and I said, Maya, you can continue to sit here and keep crying and get nothing done, or you can suck it up, right? Sit up, get back to work, and really hunker down and learn and figure this out. And that's what I did. And that was the turning point for me. It was just this self-conversation I had, but like you, I had support from my mother to help me get through those early months. Yeah. So if you're in, it could be law school, graduate school, it is common to have a hard. I remember my mom, she was a mathematics law professor, your OMA, and she would talk about.
Jean totally skipped me. I had to do remedial math, like everything. I don't do math, not my thing.
But she taught at LaSalle University at the college level, at the undergraduate level, and she would talk about freshman depression and how she could see students that were going to college in those early months. She could literally see in those early months, it sort of came across them, this depression, because it's a changed life experience. So I think that's normal.
Yeah, I had that in college too. I think it's just, this is not a podcast about law school, but also for anyone, if you're doing grad school, if you're doing stuff, for me, I think like when you go to law school, I don't know what they did for you, but like we did the whole orientation, like this is how you do your notes before you do class, and you have to do X, Y, and Z, and this is how cold calls are going to go, and blah, 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 blah. And it didn't work for me. And I remember I was like wasting time on notes, and I went to Joe Brennan, my contracts professor, was like, Professor Brennan, I feel kind of stupid, and I feel like I'm the dumb one in the room because I don't take notes this way, and I don't answer questions this way, and it would be a lot easier for me to do it this way. And he was like, you're not the dumb one in the room, just do it. He's like, if that works for you, seems fine to me. And this man is like got like 100% on the tort section of the bar exam. Genius. So for him to tell me that was great. And I got an A on my contracts final, and that was a big deal for me also because I failed on my birthday. I got 2 Fs on 2 midterms.
Yeah, that was a really painful phone call that night. I felt so bad.
But I think, like you said, like which I also think is a good lead into environmental activism, is I was really upset, and I got up the next day and I went to both those professors' office hours and I said, look, I'm not going to get an F on your final. I will not do it. And I'm not a grade person. I could get a C, but I was like, I'm not going to fail this. What do I have to do to succeed? And they were both wonderful and gave me tools. One professor, Professor Latham, shout out to you, sat down with me multiple times to rewrite my essay for multiple hours. And I think, it's a thing in environmental activism. When you fail, you can be upset for a little bit, and then you got to get back to work.
I was really, really proud of you and how you handled those 2 Fs because you really did. You didn't let it defeat you. You used it as instruction that you needed to do better. You needed to do more. You needed to find another way. The other thing, though, I want to mention, right? People often ask me, right? There are many people who say, look, I want to do what you do. I want to be an environmental activist. Like, do I need to go to law school? Should I go to law school? Where should I go to law school? And yes, I did give you, based on you and who you are and your interest in the law and your interest in the environment, I was supportive in that path for you. But what I really say to people is you do not have to be a lawyer to be an exceptional environmental activist. In fact, at the Delaware Riverkeeper Network and at Green Amendments for the Generations, the majority of my staff members are not lawyers, but they are so smart when it comes to how to use the law and science and grassroots organizing to effectuate change, right? You can learn the law just like you can learn everything else. I think if you want to be a successful environmental advocate and activist, the most important thing to do is to recognize that there is a place for everyone in environmental activism. We need lawyers. We need scientists. We need good librarians who can gather and categorize information. We need artists, right? We need visual artists and we need verbal artists. We need people who can write. We need people who can edit. We need people who can just go out and engage on a meaningful heart level. Like, that's a real talent to be able to talk with people in a way that brings them into an issue. We need people who can fundraise by writing and people who can fundraise by knocking on the door. Right? And people who are willing to stand out at a public event and engage people to sign petitions and get information. All of these are powerful skill sets. We need accountants. We need everybody. There is a place for everybody in environmental activism. And if you want to be a truly successful and irreplaceable environmental activist, what you need to do is, one, yes, take your love of the environment and recognize that is your love and that you're not going to be willing to sell the environment out and take a job for money, number one. And number two, you need to approach environmental activism through the skill set that you enjoy the most. Because when you do the thing that you love the most, you will be best at it. So marrying your environmental activism with your scientific knowledge and interests, or your accounting knowledge and interests, or your writing knowledge and interests, or your art, right? Focus on that thing, that talent, that area of learning that you are so interested in, marry it with your interest in and love for the environment, and you will have success, and there will be a place for you, a big, important, irreplaceable place for you in an environmental organization or an environmental movement. So don't do what somebody tells you you should do to go far. Do what you love and you'll go far.
Definitely. Yeah. I think that's being in law school, especially nowadays. I don't know like what for you, but I think my school and definitely in the past too, people have like hammered in like, well, you go to law school, you go past the bar and you're an attorney, and like everything you do in between has to be legally related. Everything you do in between has to be, you know, on X, Y, and Z path. And that's where my school and I butt heads, is that I don't agree with that. I'm like, I don't think I have to write briefs all the time to be, I don't think I would have to do that. Well, I don't think I have to do that to be an effective activist, which is what I want to do. And of course I've worked for you for many a summer. And of course that's always like, well, you should try somewhere else. And I've tried other things. I'm like, look, this is what I like to do. And this is a career I'm passionate about. And I think for me, which is also the good point of when you find what you're passionate about, do it. For me, a lot of my passion comes from a personal connection to a place. So when I worked at Delaware Riverkeeper Network, that was big, not just because you're my mom and but like I played on the Delaware River and I know those communities and I know those people. And that was really like, I can only do stuff if I give a crap about it, if I really, really care. Like I have to be connected with it is how I work best, because I feel that personal, like, which I know you do too with the environment, but I feel that personal, like, like it has to be me. I don't know. That's the best. So yeah, find your passion and do it.
So one of the things that I was thinking about as I was thinking about today's show and why we're here in Santa Fe and the experiences that you're having and thinking about the law, you know, a lot of people also think that if you want to be in the legislature, you should be a lawyer. And, you know, if you want to be elected to state or federal office, there too, not true. Right? Do what you love and you'll go far and you'll be an effective elected official. So just setting that aside, we've sort of got there, not because you have to be a lawyer, but also thinking about politics and politicians. And just as you are right now in your efforts to educate decision makers and community members about the power and importance of constitutional green amendments to recognize and protect environmental rights, you're dealing with a lot of legislators, as I have done over my career. And I am wondering, what is your sense of the politicians that you're working with? What's your experience with them? What do you think about people who are elected to state office? Are they all the same? Are they all good? Are they all bad? What do you think?
They're not all the same, that's for sure. And I think as someone who generally likes to hold humanity in high hopes and hope that people at their core will do what's right, I have been proven wrong by several people and not by others. So I think, to put it plainly, I work when I get to go to the Capitol and work with great legislators like our lead Green Amendment co-sponsors, Senator Cydia Lopez and Representative Joanne Ferrari. It is great being among two very powerful and passionate women who, not just for the Green Amendment, for everything that they work on, it's like a genuine, they care about the communities that they're working in and for the state. And then we have our other great, we have 23 co-sponsors right now, and we have our other great ones like Senator Kerry Hamblin, Jeff Steinborn, Senator Harold Pope Jr., who was on the Green Amendment long ago, I think when it first started, the New Mexico Green Amendment. So he's one of our first ones. Representative Lujan, Representative Debbie Sariñana, Representative Roybal Caballero, Representative Kay Bunkeo's new, all these like Liz Stefanik's, I could go on, I could list all 23. They're all wonderful. And I think each of them brings something different to the table. And it's so filling. And I mean, Senator Kerry Hamblin was like, that was before I came out here. And she was one of the first new ones that when we were just doing a survey calling like, hey, you know, have you heard of the New Mexico Green Amendment proposal? What are your thoughts? And when I talked to her, she was so energetic. She's like, oh my gosh, yes, like it's great. And like, I would love to, you know, more. I just want to make sure it protects these like the Native American communities and things like that. She was just so wonderful. So that was exciting.
Well, the thing is, and speaking about Senator Hamlin, one of the things that's so beautiful about her story, and really just demonstrates that she cares about this issue about environmental and community protection because it's the right thing to do, is she also over the summer went before her county commissioners and secured a resolution in support of the Green Amendment movement. Actually got a resolution supporting July 13th as National Green Amendment Day. And she did that, got that resolution, and it was out there because she believed in it. And we actually didn't find out about it till later, which just showed me that she advanced that call for support because she believed in the movement. She believed in what she was doing and that it was the right thing to do, not because she was looking to get credit. Yeah. Right. And that is what's so beautiful about our legislative champions is they clearly are all in it because they care. Now, on the flip side, we've had some other experiences, haven't we, Anneke, with legislators that are really putting up roadblocks, are acting very aggressive, talking out of one side of their mouth like they believe in environmental and community protection. And then all of a sudden in the next voice are speaking vehemently against the value of having constitutional recognition of the rights of all people to clean water and clean air. I mean, how absurd. It breaks my brain, and I find it so offensive when legislators do that. Like right now, Joe Manchin, all the things that Joe Manchin talks about, how much he cares about people, and yet he is standing firm and strong. That Senator Stefanik, right, standing firm and strong against good social change. I mean, these people should be vilified for the way they are abusing their power. Sorry, Manchin and Sinema on the federal level.
You mixed up names because you said Stefanik's. And
oh my gosh, Sinema. Senator Stefanik in New Mexico was awesome. So sorry for my misspeak. But yeah, Senator Sinema of Arizona at the federal level standing against good social progress. Senator Stefanik in New Mexico is superbly awesome on many, many issues, including the Green Amendment. But so I'm just wondering though, like these are some of my observations and experiences, and I just sadly witnessed it over the entirety of my career. This is probably your first ongoing experience with legislators writ large. What are you finding?
I mean, I definitely think it's like I'm used to going when I've gone to meetings with you or seen things and I've seen legislators kind of pull their weird moves. It definitely was in the context of I think I was expecting it because you'd seen them pull their weird stuff before, or we already like knew what they were going to do. And this is definitely me for the first time, I think, being in situations developing and thinking, maybe someone's a little bit more neutral. And then all of a sudden they come out in this outburst of like, this is why I don't support the Green Amendment, and they co-opt things. And also, I think for me, it's surprising to hear a lot of, not that I like, so when I've heard legislators speak negatively about the Green Amendment, there is definitely some level of, I don't think you did your research, because I definitely have heard facts spoken incorrectly. And then also I think it's frustrating. And I think it's at the level it hurts me at a personal level, again, doing things that I care about because that's how it has to come from me. And I did have an experience with a legislator speaking very strongly against the Green Amendment and saying things that I thought were wholly incorrect, and wanting to kind of having to bite my tongue, but wanting to jump up and be like, I don't get why you don't support this, because so many people in my generation who you've talked to, people in the community, all the legislators who see the benefit of it want this. And there's one thing to be like, I'm not sure about it. I'm not gonna, I'm just not gonna put my 2 cents out, but to be so like angry about it and so anti it when it's just such a benefit to so many people. And I think that's where it's upsetting, and I don't know why. It's hard to put into words like the visceral anger that I felt during this one legislator doing that, and how I really just like, and I think it's hard to I think there definitely are legislators who look at me and know that I'm not done law school or know my age, and they just don't care what I have to say. And it's like, I'm not just trying to talk to you as an expert, because I'm not. I'm trying to talk to you as like a human being to another human being. And I think that's where it gets frustrating. It shouldn't be legislator to constituent. It should be, I'm a human on this earth. You're a human on this earth. You should be standing up for the same things that I am, I think.
Well, and one of the things in environmental activism, I think in all social activism, what we very often hear is, well, we should let the youth speak. The youth should speak, or we should let this set of constituents speak, or people from this community speak, or these people speak, or those people speak. And so often strategically, I think activists and advocates suggest that one group will be the best spokesperson on an issue. And in fact, I've had many times people also suggest Maya, you need to give people guidance. Tell them not to be angry when they testify, or tell them to just focus on the facts. Make sure nobody cries, and well, really, when people get up and sing and tell poems, now, Maya, they really need to stick to the facts. And you should tell people that that's how to testify. And regardless of this kind of approach, whether it's a certain category of people that folks are advocating should be the spokespersons, or that people should only speak about an issue in a certain way, factually, emotionally, not emotion, whatever. My response is always the same. And it's sort of for what you just said. You talked about how some legislators look at you and say, well, you're just a young person. I don't have to listen to you. On the other hand, there are other legislators that say, you're a young person. I need to listen to you because it's your future. And there's some, what my experience has been is every decision maker, whether it's a legislator, a regulator, a school board member, whatever, everybody has their own group of people, voices, or approach for receiving information that they best hear or respond to. Some people do respond to the anger. Some do respond to the tears. Some are moved powerfully by the beautiful art, the poetry, the songs, right? Some really just want to hear the facts and the figures. Some want to hear the story about the child who is suffering because of pollution and degradation in their community. Some people want to hear from older people. Some people want to hear from younger people. Some people want to hear from poor people. Some people want to hear from rich people. Some people want to hear from Black people. Some people want to hear from Latinos. Some people want to hear from Indigenous communities. They more respond to those messages, messengers, and ways of people communicating. And so that is why in environmental protection, in all social activism, we need all voices at the table. And yes, there are times when we definitely want to put frontline communities, Native American communities, BIPOC communities who historically have not been listened to and not been given their place and space at the table. Yes, we want to make sure we put them front and center and ensure that they are heard, right? And advance that. But I think to be successful, we also want to make sure that there's a place and a space for everybody and every kind of activism and testimony, because each one of us will strike different decision makers positively or negatively. And when they won't listen to me, maybe they'll listen to you. And so only if we're both testifying will there be a voice that will touch them and touch their heart. So that's why I think just when it talks about what kind of education do you need, it's also what kind of people do we need getting active. We need everybody, because that's the only way we're going to ensure that we deliver the messages with the right messengers that touch the hearts and the minds and impact every decision maker of all kinds.
Well, so do you have I'm just interested because I think when I think about who, when you walk in a room, I think my response is oh yeah, everyone's going to want to listen to her. She's a super smart, educated, passionate lawyer lady. nation's longest lasting river keeper, the accolades go on and on and on. But do you have any experiences where you walk in a room and you go to talk to a legislator or something, they're just like, nah?
Oh my gosh, I am just like, there are sometimes I'm in a room and I am the only person people want to hear from. And there are sometimes I walk in a room and nobody wants to hear from me. And sometimes I walk in a room and people want to hear from me, but they don't recognize me. I was invited to an event to speak really just a couple of months ago. And it was a room that included a lot of politicians. And I was there as the primary speaker, but there were other speakers before me. And so I walked in and I try not to be self-important. I think that doesn't serve anybody, right? We are all here equal on this earth. And so I went and I was standing and I was respectfully listening. And a member of Congress walked in, somebody that was a co-host of this event that I had been asked to speak at, in part by them, right? And they came and they walked into the room and they stood right in front of me. So I couldn't see the speakers and I sort of ended up getting shunted off into the corner. And I'm like, okay, whatever. That's fine. I could tell they they didn't recognize me. And then a little bit later, the other lead organizer of the event who, did recognize me and did know me, introduced me and did the whole introduction. And the member of Congress that was standing in front of me, you could see them sort of looking around confused because the introducer was looking in my direction. And this member of Congress, I'm not naming names, didn't know what to do with that. And then when the introduction was done, I, of course, stepped out and you could just see his face just go like beet red and like try to cover up. So, I mean, I am just like everybody else in those experiences that I have. And it's fun and it's funny and it's irritating and it's angering. And it's an honor depending on what's the experience of the moment, but we're all the same. And we all impact everybody differently. So sometimes, right, I'm not the right person to be in the room, but you or somebody else are, and that's great.
Well, I think it makes me think about 2 years ago when you were testifying before the Senate or Congress the House Energy Committee, I think. And you were at a table of experts and you guys were talking about, I think, just pipelines.
It was pipelines, frac gas pipelines, and FERC, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, horrible abusive agency.
Yeah, we've talked about them in other episodes. And I watched it because it was funny. I was on lunch break and I was at school and my friends were like, "Is that your mom?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "You want to watch it too? We could put it up on the projector." Guys, the senator or congressman, it's so bad. I don't really care because he was rude.
I think he was from West Virginia.
Yeah.
Wasn't Manchin.
No.
But.
And I thought you were like, you and everyone at the table was like very calm and collected. You were just presenting facts as they are. And obviously we know some people don't like facts. And he was like, and frankly, Miss Van Rossum, with your attitude, you're a threat. I consider you a threat to this nation, like something like that. Like, I know it may not have been cohesively, but he said with your attitude and called you a threat. So he's like, to the economy of West Virginia and possibly the country, something like that. It's like something like that.
Well,
it was insane. I remember it's like, did he really just say that? The audacity of some men, many men.
Yeah. Well, but you know what? It was an honor because that was a pro fossil fuel guy. And in fact, the really sad thing is I was on a panel that was supposed to be about people who were opposed to, concerned about the fossil fuel industry and about frac gas pipelines and fossil fuel pipelines. And I was in fact the only person at the table that said to all of those legislators that fracking had no place in our present or future, and took a strong stand against fracking and frac gas pipelines. And everybody else on the panel said, well, that there was a place or a space, there was a time, but just not when it was in my backyard or this community or that community. And, really opened the door to continue with fossil fuel pipelines as though they weren't opposed, and which is so upsetting because that panel was supposed to be the voice for the people against the fossil fuel industry and their pipelines. And I was the only person that took that stance. And so that's why he came after me, which was fine.
It's just interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Luckily no one's done that to me yet. I'm not important yet.
You'll get there. You'll get there.
But yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I think it's cool. And I think I don't know, it's just interesting.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
that.
So, so like I said, there's a place and a space for everyone. And I hope that everybody listening to our Green Jeans podcast is really being inspired to get involved in different ways, because we need you all. We need you all.
And you don't have to do stuff at a national or state level. Your local community is somewhere that needs your help too. And just going and doing the 3-minute talk at your local township meeting on an issue you care about, writing a letter to your council member that you care about or that you want to change, whatever. Like, yeah, there's always, we always say, big and small, everything counts and everything makes a difference. And you never know, yours might be the one speech, the one letter, you might be that one person that touches that legislator, council person, whatever, that makes them do a second thought. And you should never discount your own voice in that.
And I really want to make an offer to people. I really believe in helping people stay strong in choosing a path for environmental protection and not being willing to sell out. So if you actually are from a school or a college or an environmental community group, and you think that it would be helpful for me to speak with the students about how to pick a path to best protect the environment, I am happy to do it. So if you go to www.forthegenerations.org or www.delawareriverkeeper.org, not only can you find ways to get involved, but you can get in touch with me, Maya Vemrasam, and I will be happy to try to share my experiences in becoming an environmental activist with your community and your students, and help them figure out how to get on the path of environmental protection, because it's a path that we all need to be on, whether it's professionally or just because it's a personal interest. And so I'm happy to do that if anything I said resonates and you think it might be helpful for me to say it directly.
Yeah. And if you're in New Mexico, reach out to your local legislators and tell them to support a green amendment.
And with that, I think that's the end of this week's show. So thanks everybody for joining, and please share. Right, our Green Jeans podcast is growing in audience, and the more we grow in audience, the more we grow in influence. And if you have show ideas that you want to share, where should they send their show ideas, Anneke?
Probably best if you follow us at Green Amendments on Instagram. You can totally send us a DM and tell us what your thoughts are.
Great. Thanks, everyone.